Welcome back. Hello again. It's your fearless leader here for our next talk. Hopefully, Hardy-Weinberg problems are now a piece of cake for you. And they should be, so pretty easy. Hope you're enjoying this backdrop. Microsoft was kind enough to have a default backdrop for me. I like the pairing of the dark furred and the lighter furred wolf, kind of particularly in the snow. And I immediately saw this and thought of kind of the pocket mice video. Now this guy here is going to stand out if there's a predator around. I doubt it, but Anyhow, this should be fairly quick, even though I've just wasted a minute of your time. Just the evidences for evolution. We talked last bit about Hardy-Weinberg, before that about natural selection and how genes and organisms can change. So this time we're just going to go about looking at just the evidence that there is out there for evolution. The big one is homology. These are characteristics that are similar between different species. These characteristics, and there's many different types of homology. And molecular homology, to me, it's probably one of the bigger ones. These first two. All right, molecular homology is looking at the similarities between the different macromolecules of the organisms. It's DNA, lipids, carbohydrates, and proteins. And with molecular homology, you can compare, are the proteins the same, they're different, and you can just look at, hey, there are different macromolecules, that's conserved across all spectrums of life. Then we have genetic homology. I'm not sure if you can hear the smackdown going upstairs, but it's hitting the fan up there apparently. Genetic homology is comparing the DNA sequences between organisms and just looking at how similar they are. Refer to the videos we watched with genetic homology. They compared the sequence of DNA of the lizards and the mice to see where the mutation happened. And you can go take that even further, but just comparing DNA sequences, the College Board likes looking at the DNA sequences. And structural homology, to me, I think this is going to look to a lot. I'm a big fan of structural homology, particularly vestigial structures. These are structures that supposedly were once useful and now they're not useful. Nature does not like things that are useless or a waste of energy or materials. Those things typically go away. So you're not going to, one of the pointed out to structures for humans is the appendix. And I read somewhere in the last 10 years or so that scientists now think that the appendix has a use. Maybe it's not. You can live without it, obviously, but there is a reason for it. And then comparing different structures. This is one of the, for structural homology, you'll often see pictures like this, where you have this, the forearm here, the bones. There are similarities. You see the cat, the human, and the bat. You get these fingers. The forearm structures are often similar. You got the bird, you got the cat forearm, and the human forearm. And they're highlighted here, and it's cut off. I just didn't want to resize it. But the whalebone. So these, aren't all very closely. You wouldn't think they're closely related, but if you're looking across spectrums of different organisms, you'll see some commonalities and structures. Is that we talked about last time in the phenotypic, kind of convergent evolution? Is this due to convergent evolution, or is this due to some sort of common ancestry? That depends upon the organism and what you think and whatnot. But those are the homologies, just real quick. Again, going back to it, molecular, genetic, and structural molecules, the same molecules, looking at the DNA sequences, and then looking at similar structures within organisms across the spectrum. And then going further, I would have titled this, "How are you similar to a bacteria cell?" You're not really similar to a bacteria cell in many ways, but there are a few. All organisms go through the same processes: cellular respiration, photosynthesis, DNA replication, transcription, translation. There's all some sort of form of that process in all organisms. Now, it's not exactly the same. Transcription's a little bit different in bacteria cells than in our eukaryotic cells, but this copying of DNA to RNA is conserved across all organisms. There are a few cellular features that are conserved. The primary one is that phospholipid bilayer, the plasma membrane, as being the outer barrier, that hydrophilic, hydrophobic, that awesomeness that makes up the plasma membrane. And then we have, I just kind of pulled this one out, ribosomes. I've never looked at the ribosome similarities between the ribosomes of prokaryotes and eukaryotes, but I imagine they can't be that different. And then the molecules. We saw this in the last slide, but all organisms use the same molecules: proteins, carbohydrates, nucleic acids, and lipids. And even if you go to viruses and look at viruses which are considered non-living, they are still made up of these same molecules. So you'll see that. And then how are we similar to other eukaryotes? Fine-tuning this idea a little bit. What's this? You see me air quoting common ancestor right now, but what is this common? How can we? Where are the similarities? You have membrane-bound organelles. That's what eukaryotes are. Not are, but what they contain. They have the linear chromosomes. The double helix straight line compared to prokaryotes, which have the circular chromosomes, and we can have introns, exons, which you're not going to find too much in those prokaryotes. And then you can also expand. You get the membrane-bound organelle, you got the cellular membrane, and you've got all the other characteristics from before. And then finally, and I'll let you go, are organisms still evolving? Can we see evidence for this evolution now? One mechanism you could use, you're talking about Hardy-Weinberg, you can use that looking at period 1 versus period 2. Are they the same? Are they different? But we have antibiotic-resistant bacteria. Those that are antibiotic resistant survive the antibiotics, and those that don't die. And it's a perfect example of natural selection. We have those that can survive, they survive, and they reproduce. Imagine that. So the antibiotic-resistant bacteria, they can also transfer their DNA from one bacteria to another cell, which increases that. But we're seeing this. Pesticide-resistant insects. I haven't heard much about this, but apparently they're out there. And then, of course, even in humans, we have mutations, and the genome is constantly changing due to mutations in the DNA. And that's going to cause change, possibly new phenotypes. You look at the different fruits we have out now, and we also have genetic engineering, all sorts of different crazy things going on now. But change is happening. Right? Think of coronavirus. It's a virus, not really living. So there's this, is evolution happening there or not? I'm not going to take up that debate, but they mutate frequently, make it worse, and they can change. They can make it worse, can make it less stable, hopefully, but these organisms are constantly changing. All right, that's it. I'll let you go. A little shorter today. I'll try to get you a nice 15-minute one tomorrow. And that's it. I need 1,000 subscribers to monetize my channel. Right now I'm at like 11. So let's get subscribing, people. Like and subscribe. Let me make some money on this. See ya.